And we are live. So, welcome to episode 137 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here.
Pleasure.
And returning after a bit of a hiatus. When was the last time you were on? It was one of those Godzilla movies. It must have been when we were doing Godzilla. Yep, so, Jesus, that must have been in like
2 months ago.
June. Yeah, that was in June we were doing Godzilla. It's out there on the left coast. We've got the radical one. We've got Rod joining us to hang out and shoot the shit a little bit. So, there you go. So, I was saying before we went on with Eric and before Rod got in the stream that this is the final week of the Summer of Crime. Mm-hmm. And last week, we were supposed to cover this movie, but then I remembered I had a schedule change at work, and then I had another schedule change that snapped back, and then I realized that this was a late show with Rod, and I was like, I can't do a late show because I have to get up too damn early. Mm-hmm. So luckily, we've been able to piece this together for tonight, not piece it together, but just kick the can a little bit and now get to it. And we're here to talk about the Boondock Saints. So if you're ready to go, shall we get it going?
Let's do it.
Let's rock it, man.
Boogity woogity. So, this movie comes with its own sort of parallel story, which I don't know how many of you would be familiar with it.
Yeah, I read up on it.
It comes the story of writer-director Troy Duffy, who it's like one of the greatest crash and burn stories like in modern Hollywood. And Troy Duffy, there's a documentary out there called it's not Outnumbered. I can't remember. There's a documentary about him, and it's on Tubi, and I think it's on Pluto TV right now. It's a little over an hour. I can't remember the name of it. But Troy Duffy was a bartender and a bouncer in a bar in Hollywood.
And a musician.
And a musician. Yeah, and a musician. That's right. And in his break time, he wrote out this story, this screenplay, and had tremendous success in selling it. He actually had Mephistopheles himself, Harvey Weinstein, come down to the bar that he worked at and signed the deal right there in the bar. He sold the story and the rights to it for $300,000.
Wow. So
he went from bartender to $300,000 like that. And, this is the 90s. It's, the end of the 90s, but it's 97 or something like that. It's that edgy time in writing, the Tarantinos, the Robert Rodriguez's, the Spike Lees, the Kevin Smiths, all these types are out there doing it. And suddenly you've got Troy Duffy. And to put a cherry on top, Weinstein actually purchased the bar that Troy Duffy worked at and gifted it to him.
Oh, wow.
That's how much they believed in this guy. And within about a year, he pissed the whole thing away.
Oh, no.
Because he's an obnoxious drunk and just like this abusive fucking asshole. Well, or he was. And just lost everything. The original cast for this, they were considering Keanu Reeves and Ethan Hawke in the role of the brothers. Willem Dafoe's character, Agent Smecker, they were considering Ken Branagh Troy Duffy refused to pronounce Brana's name and just kept calling him a cunt.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Imagine in the 90s, at the height of his power, Ken Branagh doing 4-hour full-length adaptations of Hamlet and some fucking bartenders just calling him a cunt.
Oh, what a Mr. Sunshine.
Yeah, so within a very short period, that's why I really
No
didn't.
wonder his career crashed.
Yeah, he alienated everybody. They took back the deal. He spent all the money because he thought that this was just the first of many, big paydays that he was going to receive. And then the project was essentially shelved until I think a year or so later, where they brought it forward again, but produced it in such a way that essentially he made no money off of it. They sort of went around him. And here we are.
But he still got to direct it.
Yeah, he still got to direct it, but he never got any of the royalties or anything like that. Or like they cut it in such a way that they really cut him out of most of the money. And he's, to the best of my understanding, with the exception of the sequel, which has come along over a decade later, 15 years later, he's never worked in Hollywood again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's sort of just been blackballed, and now they're talking perhaps there's going to be a third installment of this at some point, and they'll bring the fellas back.
Well, he did co-write Guest House, a Pauly Shore movie or something like that. He worked on that. He did something like that. That's the only other thing he did.
Maybe it's better not to work in Hollywood at all if those are your fucking conditions, And it's a shame because to me, he wrote and directed a hell of a fucking movie. Now, this is the final week of the Summer of Crime. I wanted to get to this. I'm glad we finally are, but I want to start with Eric here. Eric had never seen it. Is
right.
Up on another caller, Rod?
That's fine. Go ahead.
Because you hung up on our callers before, people calling into the show. Rod would just hang up on the motherfucker like that. He just did it again. He just did it twice in like 30 seconds.
He's our own personal secretary.
Yeah.
Cut him off. They're not important.
Personal assistant. Yeah, Rod's got to talk. Hold on a second, Could be fucking Hollywood right now calling. Rod's just fucking putting them on hold. So, you wish, you had never seen this before.
Correct.
What is your feedback? I saw that you were getting some negative feedback on some of your social media feeds from people. What's your reaction to the film?
Well, I went into this knowing that there was a lot of hype to it. It was just one of those movies I just never got around to. And all I really knew is honestly the cast. I knew Sean Patrick Flannery, Norman Reedus before Walking Dead, and then of course Willem Dafoe. And I will watch anything with Willem Dafoe. So I was still very, very excited to watch this film. And I went into it. I'm like, wow, just the opening sequence itself, just the way it's cut with the action happening with the boys at the meat packing plant, and then we get the Boston, and then more action in Boston. I could tell this was going to be a well-made film, and by the end of this, I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Love the boys, but even if you have no desire to see this film, you have to watch it just for Willem Dafoe alone.
Willem Dafoe is wonderful in this.
Oh my God, I was. We'll get into it more, obviously, but every time that man was on screen, no matter what was happening, whether he's investigating the crime, whether he's arguing with his boyfriend in the bedroom,
you fag,
whether at the very, very end he's in disguise. I couldn't take my eyes off the fucking TV, dude.
I don't know. I don't think you could make a movie. Now, he might come back for a third one. I haven't seen the second one. I got to get around to it. I heard I don't think you could make this movie today.
Not with his character.
It's so fucking politically incorrect.
Oh, so much.
It is so raw and so visceral and
Mhm.
so funny, and just extremely well written.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with a scene where the two brothers are in church.
Mm-hmm.
And the Monsignor, they're in a Catholic church, and the Monsignor begins to give the homily. And it's about the anniversary of the death of a woman who was murdered essentially in broad daylight in the city of Boston, while everyone stood around and refused to help. She's calling for help, she's crying for help, and no one would help this woman, and she was just murdered in the streets.
Well, I think isn't this a story that inspired Tory Duffy to write this?
It might have been. It might have been. But it's funny because I go on social media today, and the new version of this is everybody breaks out their camera and films it,
Mm-hmm.
but no one will get involved. And today I saw this kid assaulting this Orthodox Jewish man today for no reason. Just her in New York City. Just some punk. I mean, just a real fucking punk. And everybody's just standing around.
Right.
There's a big crowd. Nobody will help. You know, it's just some kid, you know, and the guy won't defend himself, you know. And so it's a very real thing, you know, that still happens today. And this idea that it's not evil action in the world that is the worst thing. It's the indifference of people around it that just continue to allow it to happen. That is worse than that. And it's just, I mean, it grips you. I mean, you watch it today. When I saw it in 1999, maybe not so much. The father's homily the Monsignor's homily is it grabs you. But now looking at it, you know, almost 25 years later and 25 years of life later, you're like, fuck, that's awful.
Mm-hmm.
That's really awful. So it starts out on a somewhat serious tone. But then that music starts playing.
Yes.
And, you know, you're in Boston and there's Irish music playing. And
it's like a party.
You know, it's exactly what it's like. And these boys are with Sean Patrick Flannery. And,
I love the fact that when they got up and they walked right past the Monsignor and just stood there and just, you know, did their own thing like they were. And he didn't say anything to them at that time. And that time they didn't establish what they're going to do. They didn't know what they're going to do. So it's just that this powerful scene of them just coming in and just taking over.
Mm-hmm.
And the Monsignor seemed to understand the priests, you know, because there's that one visiting priest and he gets very bent out of shape because Catholicism is very ritualistic, you know, and you don't break from the rituals especially during the Mass. You know, or get up or come upon the altar while the priest or the Monsignor or whoever is delivering the homily. So that was a big deal what they did. And the other priests were like, no, just leave these guys alone. So maybe in some respect they were already along that path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, but maybe not to the extent that we've seen. And then they get to you see that they're working in this meat packing plant, and this story is about 25 years ahead of its time because they get some big hulking woman who just looks angry and nasty, and she's giving them, and they're like, "You're gonna train her today," and she's just like, you know, And he uses that expression, Sean Patrick Flannery, the rule of thumb.
Yep.
And what did he say that for? It starts a fucking history lesson. You know, and he's just like blowing her off. He's like, well, you can't do much with this, can you? Maybe it should have been the rule of wrist, you know, or something like this, because, you know, you were allowed to beat your wife if the stick was no
I'll be back in a second. Sorry.
Okay. Was no, you know, the diameter of the stick was no wider than your thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she just starts punching people.
Oh, God. This scene was so insane because, like I said, I didn't know what I was getting into. Basically, I knew it was going to be like an anti-hero vigilante type movie. And we, like you said, we started with this serious tone, but then the party music starts, and they get into this fist fight with this huge woman. There's honestly no other way to describe her. She's just big, physically. She's loud. She's obnoxious. She's not taking any shit. And they just go all at it. And it's just like, okay, what the hell am I getting into with this movie?
Norman Reedus just slugs her. She hits Sean Patrick Flint. She kicks him in the balls, I think.
Yeah.
And Norman Reedus just comes across with the right and just knocks her out. And the fucking foreman's like, oh, Jesus, here we go.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, and then you see they're at the bar, and you've got that fucking bartender who just keeps messing up all of the yeah. They calls him fuck ass. Fuck ass.
This was weird for me because I'm a child of the '80s, and I wondered who the hell this guy was. I looked for him, and I grew up. I was a big Jim Henson guy, and there was a show called Fraggle Rock. He was the guy, the only human physical character on that, and it was just so weird. Him being on a children's show. Jim Henson children's show, and then you watch him in this, and he's calling people "fuck ass" and just stuttering. It was just such a weird culture shock for me. You know what I mean? But I loved him in this.
So it pushes the button too. Isn't that some type of what's
Tourette's?
it called?
I think.
The Tourette syndrome. So at this time, I mean, like you said before, today this would not go over well at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But the fact you can do it here.
Probably Troy Duffy would have been in his element, like, drawing all that fire from those assholes.
Yep.
He was 25 years ahead of his time or something like that, And today he would have been, fucking perfect. And, maybe because it is a great movie. And I hope, that he's learned from it. It's been, 25 years. Maybe he can still write, I don't know.
Right.
But essentially, that bar scene is just such a happy scene. Because everybody just looks like they're having a great time.
Yep.
And you get to meet, who is it? Rocco.
Yes.
Oh, Rocco's great.
Rocco is fucking great in this. And he's just like, hey, fuck ass, give me a beer.
Exactly.
And like the whole bar is like, yeah, Rocco. And everybody's hugging everybody and they're all drunk.
Yeah, he's like Norm from Cheers. You know what I mean? Everybody, he's there every door. He's there every day.
Yeah. Oh. And it's just... you find out that the Russian mafia is moving in on the Irish neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're squeezing the bartender out of his bar, essentially. They're taking over. They're taking over the neighborhood. So I think for the most part, the boys are inclined to let it go. But then the Russians actually show up in the bar on St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
Yeah.
To try to pick a fight, just to fuck with him.
And you think they're gonna get the ass beat because those Russians are so freaking.
It doesn't go very well for them.
No. That what I liked is you saw a little bit of the fight and then it cuts straight to the aftermath.
Well, what I loved about this movie was that you rarely saw any of the action live.
Exactly.
It was always done through some sort of recollection or recreation or flashback. Yeah, Willem Dafoe was, piecing it together afterwards, this, that, and the other. Yeah, you see that, that big, I am Ivan Chekhov, and he's like, well, we'll get a Spock, and then we've got an away team, so they're just like completely blowing them off.
I really think that's what made the movie for me. For me, what made the movie is those narrations, is the fact that you come up to a scene and then you expect all this action that happens, and they jumped to the conclusion of that little scene, and then you go back to it. It makes me think, what happened with this? This movie's so boring that they decided to switch it up a little bit and just take the scenes out and add the narration or something.
Yeah, and it especially makes you wonder because, like I said, you see the after effect, and the guys weren't just found dead, bullets and stuff like that. I think one of the guys he's missing the back of his pants, and you want to know how the hell that happened. He found out he lit his ass on fire.
He lit his ass on fire. Yeah. So even the boys at this stage, they haven't turned into killers.
Right.
No.
They're just, you came into our bar, you fucked with us. We're going to fuck you up, but we're not going to kill you.
Right.
So what they do, it just turns into a big fight, and next thing you know, this big Russian's tied down to the bar or the pool table or something, and they pour liquor on his ass and light his ass on fire, which is something I'd never seen before.
Right.
But it's done in like this comedic way.
It's like out of a Jackass movie or something.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then, you find out that they're squatting in this tenement building.
Mm-hmm.
They've just got some mattresses and they're hanging their rosaries on the wall. And, that's about all they've got. And then I think it fades again.
On his head.
Well, yeah, because what happens is next thing you know, the Russians are dead in an alley.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this is where we meet Agent Smecker.
Oh my God.
By Willem Dafoe.
Holy shit! What an entrance, dude.
This might be his most underrated role.
Yes.
Oh, totally.
He's known for tons of things. Spider-Man, where he played the Green Goblin. I mean, he just did it again in $1 billion movie for Marvel.
Platoon.
Yeah, Platoon. You name it. Willem Dafoe's been it. He was just in The Northman. He's been in the DC comics. He's done it all.
Yep.
Yeah, Aquaman. He's done it all. Here he plays Agent Smecker of the FBI, who's like there.
How could you not laugh with a last name like that? You know what I mean?
Smecker.
Yeah. And you've got these Boston cops that you can see in the background, and the one guy
on the right,
on the right in the center, directly to the right, is coming up with some theory for like a huge guy.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody wants to take it from there, just go right ahead.
It's just like I love how he first off he enters to some rock music. You know what I mean? When he gets out of his car, and what I love is how this movie has intro cards basically for all these characters. So you get to see his first name and last name, how he works for the FBI, and what I love is when he basically tells, we said that the tall guy on the right, how you're basically wrong. He said, "Why don't you go get me a cup of coffee?" Yeah. And then the guy's yelling at him. He's like, "Cream and sugar, one lump or stuff like that." And then
it's cafe latte.
That's it, cafe latte.
Sweet and low. He just pumps it.
Cafe latte, sweet and low.
and then he does his little spiel, which I think is he's listening to a Discman, and he's listening to opera.
And he has this movements and
yes,
like he's conducting the orchestra.
when he's walking down the alleyway, and we just see the shot from behind him, and he's basically just dancing in the wind. You know what I mean? He's
everyone's
amazing.
looking at him like, "Who the fuck is this guy? Who is he?"
And then what I love is when he finally figures it out. He says, "Check for bullets here. Porcelain here." And then he looks at the one guy. He's like, "I think I'll take a bagel with my latte." And I think cream cheese, and I think
onion bagel.
And then he says something like, "I think the first ass kissing is going to come directly from you." He's so smug, but he's so good at his job that he deserves to be that smug.
Well, plus the Boston cops are the one guy in charge is like this loudmouth who's just so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
And he's got some theory about a huge guy who squishes him to death or something like that. So they're just so easy to make fun of. They're just marks.
Yeah.
And so, he kind of recreates this thing, and it turns out that the Russians came back and found where these guys are living after the one fucking Chekhov, his head is bandaged, his ass has got bandages all over it.
Yep.
He's still wearing the same clothes from last night, and they're taking I think Norman Reedus out to shoot in the head. And they take him downstairs and they cuff Sean Patrick Flannery to the toilet.
Yep.
And he somehow manages in this panic to pull the toilet up from the fucking pipes.
I still don't know how he does it. I mean, he's so scrawny looking.
Yeah.
And he just rips it, and you see all this blood dripping from the handcuffs.
Yeah, the friction from the cuffs are cutting into his wrists.
I just chalked it up to
his
adrenaline.
Brother. Yeah, it's like those ladies who can lift a car to save their baby. It's that kind of thing. His brother's about to die. You can tell already within 10 minutes that they're like,
they're super close. Yeah.
And the next thing you knew, Sean Patrick Finley was jumping off the 4th floor of a building or something like that. They hit the fucking Chekhov guy in the head with the toilet. And you're like, what the fuck am I watching?
He drops it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
he drops it, and it kills him, and then he jumps off to get onto the next guy.
Yeah.
But geez, and you again the shot, because you see that toilet just go. I was picturing like Looney Tunes, you know what I mean, like Wile E. Coyote going off the cliff, and then it just
dropping a boulder,
smashes right on his head.
Yeah. I can't think of another. I mean, and I think one of the criticisms that you got, because I think we brought this up, I don't know if you got into it. You got a little negative feedback saying it was too much like Tarantino.
Right.
I was wondering how timing wise. When did this come in with Tarantino? I was wanting to do some research.
I think Pulp Fiction was 94. This was 99. So that's. I mean,
there are lots of people.
A lot of people think any filmmaker who wants to make a movie with gangsters and guns is ripping off Tarantino, and that's not true. You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I like Tarantino. I'm not a Tarantino fanatic. There are a lot of people that are. I think he's a good filmmaker, maybe even a great filmmaker. But I also think that Pulp Fiction was his best movie. And Pulp Fiction was 28 years ago.
Right.
So, I'm not, I'm not making it. Like I said, the 90s were filled with those types of writers and directors that were doing great indie work like this. And to be perfectly honest, I think this is kind of an original story.
I think so.
I didn't. This came out in '99, and until that person had said that, I had never like Tarantino. Like that never even occurred to me. But I mean, Willem Dafoe is he's just fucking great. It's great to see Norman Reedus. I was never a huge Sean Patrick Flannery fan.
I've seen him he did that movie Powder that was big in the 90s.
Yeah.
He was mainly me. I knew him as there was a television series called Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and he played Young Indiana Jones.
Oh, was he really?
He was Young Indy, so that's where I really knew him from. I mean, he's a working actor. He's
one of those actors you see, but you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's never had a huge, enormous role.
Right.
Like even Norman Reedus necessarily has in him, and we've seen him in the second Blade movie. He was there in Del Toro's flick. He had a bit part in Del Toro's Mimic. He's in it for like 5 minutes. He's in that. But his big role comes from playing Daryl Dixon and The Walking Dead. So you've had 10 years to get to know, Norman Reedus.
Right.
And it's rumored that he, if the MCU may have secretly tapped him to play the next Ghost Rider.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
It might be Norman Reedus, which would be okay. I mean, we'll see how they do the
be
Ghost
interesting.
Rider. But I'm a huge fan of Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead. I love The Walking Dead. I mean, it's just he recreates the whole fucking scene. Then they're back at the police station, and the one guy's saying, well, they're never coming in here. You're going to have to drag the whole city, or you're going to drag, because they're Irish, so you're going to have to drag a potato through South Boston.
There's so many Irish stereotypes in this movie. Like there was right there. What was it? One of the cops was saying, are you sure there was gunshots? Nobody called it anything. He says, this is an Irish neighborhood. You're lucky we were called, or something like that.
Is there anybody that doesn't offend in this movie? He offends almost every single race and culture.
That's true.
He does.
He's just gonna go for it. Might as well go for it all.
He wiped the fucking slate. Yeah, he just cleared the fucking slate on everybody. And I gotta hand it to him. I mean, he did a great fucking job. And then they turned themselves in. And so just sort of fucking cleared themselves. I think that's where the bagel comes in.
Because I was thinking, because it was the scene before that when they're at the hospital and Doc comes in, and it shows how sweet these guys are. They're playing with these kids that you can tell probably have cancer because they have no hair, and they're playing this game, and they're slapping each other to make the girl have a good time, and then in comes Doc, saying fuck ass and this in front of nuns, and then as they're walking away, what was it? Sean Patrick Flannery says, "Don't worry, none of that bad stuff he said towards you. You're a good kid."
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah, I mean, they're
little things like
good.
that, man.
Yeah, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, man. I mean, I miss the 90s sometimes, man.
The fact
is
they base all this on Catholicism, the whole Catholic Church, and the whole thing is based on that. You know, I love the scene where they're in the prison and it's raining, and it seems like the water's dripping on them, and then they're washed of their sins of what they just did. Yeah. And this is when all this stuff starts coming up, when he gets the beeper from the Russian guy and all this, and makes that call.
And he says, "Destroy all that which is evil."
Yeah.
You know, they get that. It's almost like they get a message from God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that this is what they're supposed to be doing, because these people are evil. I mean, like Rocco's kind of he works for the mafia, but he's kind of he's a moron.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like he's a hitman or anything like that. You know, you get the feeling
that he's like the gopher. You know, he's the one that gets the latte and the bagel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's the punching bag.
Yeah.
He's the punching bag for the mafia.
His nickname was the Joker, isn't it, or something like that, or
the Funny Man.
The funny man. Yeah, the funny man.
Tell me a joke, funny man.
Yeah, and that is just one of the funniest fucking scenes I've ever seen in my life.
Now I finally got what those gifts, those text messages you were sending me were, because it was just a guy saying, "Well, where's the joke?" or something like that, and I'm like, "Holy shit!"
The joke. Yeah, continue the joke. Because and I sent you also a YouTube video with the number of fucks that are in this movie. There's like 200 of them or something, at least probably 50. And they're all compiled into. I'll send it to you too. They're all compiled in like 1 second scenes. Like somebody's edited every time somebody says "fuck" in this whole movie, and it's like a 2-minute long video. And fuck, ass. And it's a whole fucking video like that. And the one that really fucking gets me is the mafia don.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you, you cocksucking motherfucker! I always get my money, you fucking fuck, or something like that, bastardo, and it's just such an awful Italian accent.
Mm-hmm.
They're just doing these, you're right, it's
just another stereotype, yeah.
He's eating an Italian sub.
Of course.
He's eating an Italian sub with nothing in it. He's complaining. I mean, they even hired Ron Jeremy.
Yeah. Oh man.
Man. I knew when I first saw his face. I'm like, I know him from somewhere, and I'm like, it can't be. And I had to look it up, but it is Ron Jeremy. Yeah. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I just said
this guy was really down there in the dregs, to fucking get some authenticity, I guess.
If you need a scuzzbag, you hire a scuzzbag,
Yeah, Ron Jeremy. So Ron Jeremy is playing like one of the lieutenants or like the deputy don or something like that. And he fucking hates Rocco.
Yeah.
And then the don makes him tell that joke. Which is just one of the fucking all-time greatest pieces of writing in terms of crass material.
I laughed my ass off.
I laughed my ass off too.
He forced poor Rocco to say the N-word, and you knew he didn't want to say it.
He did not want to say it. He did not want to say it.
So what about my black nigger brother? Okay, nigger. Yeah. Okay, so he's just it's fucking great. I mean, the 90s were just such a raw fucking time.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
They were just fucking raw as fuck, and I mean, now in these safe times, you got to fall back on your back catalog. So that's what we're doing. And so you sort of see what Rocco's position is within the mafia. He's, he's no gopher. He's not, it's not even like a gopher. Like, somebody who runs it. Like, I think Rod once tried to hook me up with a production assistant job out in L.A. or something, and I don't remember. I didn't know what it was at the time, and maybe it could have turned into something, but I think I kind of turned it down. I was like, I didn't really know what it was, and so on and so forth. But I mean, you get a job like that. It depends on the person, someone who helps you out, your personal assistant or whatever, you could be treated, relatively decently.
Yeah, he's the guy.
I value you. I appreciate you, this, that, and the other. He's not like that.
No.
He was trying to be made. He was trying to get made like everybody else. He was trying to work.
So he kept kissing everybody's ass,
right?
Instead of sort of standing up for himself because he's trying to get himself in, and
they saw him
they see him coming a mile away.
Yeah, they saw him as a pushover, and they treated him as one.
Yeah. We've got Willem Dafoe.
Oh God!
Somehow.
What a fag.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe is laying in bed with his boyfriend or whoever it was, or some guy, some guy he picked up, and he's talking on the phone, some police business or something because there's been a, murder. Because I think that's where the boys go in and murder the entire Russian meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
All those mafia dons.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't see it until Willem Dafoe gets called in, and then we get to see the recreation of what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And Willem Dafoe gets that call, and his very, his boyfriend or whatever is
his
just
boy
trying
toy.
to he's just trying to cuddle with her, and he smacks him in
he slaps him.
He's like, "Get the fuck!" He's like, "What are you doing?"
I was trying to cuddle.
Cuddle. Fag. And, the guy's just like, "Oh, that's awful." I mean, what a great fucking performance. I mean, it's it's so fucking visceral. It's fantastic. He's making fun of. He's back in the apartment. He's fucking berating those cops again because now that one fucking guy is trying to sound like he's educated. And what does he use that word? Symbology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's like, symbology. I think you mean symbolism, you fucking moron. And he's just ripping these guys to pieces. He just chews them up. That's where he calls him the fag man. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
The one FBI agent slips in because he wants to say bag man.
Yeah.
He calls him the fag man.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Go, you guys take it for a minute. Go ahead. I mean,
I mean,
want to talk this whole thing up.
He's so great, and like I said, he's so serious. Well, Dafoe is. He's so serious when he needs to be, but he knows what type of character this is too. He is very flamboyant in his own ways, and he takes this character and he runs with it, and he is just so entertaining. A lesser skilled actor, I would think, would make this kind of a parody. You know what I mean? Yeah. A parody of like a homosexual or something like this. He rides that line. He to me, he seems like he's like a self-hating homosexual. Just the way he takes these cuts at that life. He slaps the boy toy. Just stuff like that. Yeah. But like at the end when he was in that disguise, he kind of liked it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic performance. And then when we get to, like, you talk about the recreations, it kind of reminded me of. I haven't watched the whole series yet, but I told you before, Mike, I watched like maybe the half of the first season of Hannibal, how they recreate the crime scenes. This kind of reminded me a little bit of that, how, he discusses it and then we get to see what happened. So I thought that was really creative, especially during that massacre of the Dons where they fall out of the ceiling.
Yeah, because they start fighting up in the fucking air ducts.
Yeah, it's all an accident.
Yeah, and they just fall down, and all of a sudden they're just spinning around, and like killing everybody. And that's what Willem Dafoe says. He goes, "You see this in bad television."
Yeah,
because they've stumped him. That's the problem, really. Willem Dafoe is becoming increasingly frustrated because he can't figure out what the fuck is, like, somebody's killing all these mafia people, and he thinks it's some kind of like mafia war, like some international mafia war, but in truth it's just these fucking two knuckleheads.
Yeah, they're even arguing like at the end because they fall through the ceiling and they get caught on the rope and they're spinning around. And it looks fucking cool.
Arguing about the rope. They have that big argument about the rope.
And at the end, and then at the end, one of them says, "Yeah, so I guess it's a good thing we brought the rope, huh?"
And it really is like two brothers.
Exactly. I was just gonna say they're arguing like two brothers. And what I love is, I went in this, like I said, totally blind. I only knew, like I said, two vigilantes killing gangsters or mafia guys, and how a lot of this stuff is just they're successful by accident, and that made me like these guys even more. You know what I mean? They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Like I've seen the poster. The poster's intimidating. You know, they're pointing the gun, this and that. I've seen so many pictures of them, praying to the gun, this and that, and they're just kind of a couple dorks. You know what I mean? And I really like it.
Yeah, Rod, go ahead. You get in here.
No. I love the way they joke around the whole time. Every single scene there's something funny about them. Their relationship is what builds this whole movie for me, because without their relationship, it'd be just like you said, just two guys shooting everybody. Like after they shoot these mafia guys, they sit there. Rocco knocks on the door and they see it. They want to play around with them. You know what I mean? They want to joke. Not the fact that they just shot 9 mafia dons, but now they want to fuck around and joke around with Rocco.
Yeah, they're like they're like 3 kids.
Yeah, a bunch of kids running around.
Did you see what I just did? That type of stuff.
Yeah. And sure enough, they bring Rocco. They send Rocco to shoot the mafia dons. This is supposed to be his big promotion assignment.
Well, they convince him that they were sent here to set up. There's a setup because there's 9 mafia dons and he has a 5-shooter. I don't know about guns, but he only has 5 bullets. So they sent you with this gun with 5 bullets, and there's 9 mafia dons here. Add the 2 and 2 together. You know what I mean? Come on, they're trying to set you up, and that's how they convinced them to go and kill the other mafia heads.
Yeah, and that's where things start to flip. Because once they managed to flip Rocco.
Yes.
And that.
Well, Rocco's the one that could really convince them to start shooting everybody. He was like, "Hey, I know all the addresses of the mafia down. Let's go get them. I know where they go. I know who's on top. I know everything. I know the inside."
Yeah, but the problem is that Rocco brings another level of instability to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now you're killing people in a serious thing. This isn't the Punisher.
Right.
Where you're like the Punisher is just a straight up killer. These are a couple of kids who work at a meatpacking plant, that have gotten lucky a couple of times. But now with Rocco's prompting, they're going to start doing this now on a regular thing. And it's really not a great idea.
No.
It's not.
Rocco's got such a short fuse, and we see that in the scene where they take out Ron Jeremy at the Peep Show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because again, this is what I mean. They're like dorks. You know what I mean? There's no other way to say it. They take out Ron, they take out everybody else, and then you got Rocco trying to be like Mr. fucking Hollywood when he's putting the guns and pointing them like his right hand is pointing to the left and vice versa, and he's just shooting them like it's a fucking Hollywood movie. You know what I mean?
Because these are kids that have been watching, grew up on bad television.
Yeah.
They grew up on 70s and 80s bad television, and they're recreating these things
that they've seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is ironic that Ron Jeremy gets shot and killed in the Peep Show. I love the fact that
I know.
You know what I mean?
I think one of the girls in there was another porn star, wasn't she?
Yeah, Gina Fine.
So they had another porn star, in the movie. So I mean, this guy was, and now I'm trying to think of it with Keanu and Ethan Hawke. I mean, maybe, but somehow these guys,
especially Wahlberg for this.
See, here's another thing. These guys naturally seem more low rent. It will be like the poor man's Keanu.
And and
that's why it works, because they seem like dirtbags.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's the thing. And it's this ongoing joke with Norman Reedus. Every season in The Walking Dead, he gets dirtier and dirtier. You know what I mean? But the thing is, also with Keanu, I can see it because The Matrix was came out at the time, and now he's popular with the John Wick movie, so he does all the gun fu and stuff like that. But bless his heart, he doesn't have the charisma that these 2 actors bring to this role that was needed, in my opinion. Like Keanu can be funny, but he has, in my opinion, the only time he's really funny is when he's like in that stoner type role, like the dumbass, like Bill and Ted or Parenthood or something like that. When it comes to this, and he doesn't have a lot of charisma. He's kind of flat. Like, we had fun with him in Point Break, but he was kind of flat.
He doesn't have comedic
the
timing.
Same thing.
Yeah, he doesn't have comedic timing. That's
exactly,
that's
and you needed that with these two brothers because they had to be combative with each other, always arguing with each other, like we said, like brothers do.
Because what you've got essentially are two circles. You've got Willem Dafoe and the cops over here, and you've got Rocco and the two brothers. You know, and they're playing opposite. You know, it's like two whirlwinds. You know, one following the other. You know, and yeah, you're right. I don't think it would have worked.
Ethan Hawke, maybe. I can see Ethan Hawke doing it.
Ethan Hawke can do just about anything.
Yeah, but I don't see Keanu doing it. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever really seen Ethan Hawke do comedy, but I'm sure he could.
I'm sure he could if he was given the chance.
Yeah. Rod, what's your
this is drama with slight comedy. You know what I mean?
It's comedy.
I think they're just having fun. So Ethan Hawke would have been fine doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about the whole cat thing when Rocco
she shoots the cat.
Oh Jesus Christ! I lost my shit when that happened.
I was like, wait, what happened? What happened? Because I turned away for a second to something else. I looked back, I saw the splat on the wall.
Same here. I had to rewind it.
Exactly. I rewinded. I was like, the fucking cat. Oh no. That scene was a brilliant scene. I for some reason.
That's a scene you shouldn't be laughing at this, but because of we now know how Rocco is. He's a mess up. He's this loose cat, and he literally accidentally shoots the cat, and it's just one of those. Like I said, if you saw it in the theaters, you wouldn't have, and you missed it. You're screwed. You'd have to wait until he explains what happened to the two ladies. Like, geez, I lost it during that scene. Like, I yelled like "Holy shit" to my TV when that happened because I did not expect that.
Nowadays, that definitely would have got some shit from PETA or whoever it is out there.
Well, I mean, it's another example of how unstable Rocco is.
Yes.
Like this, the brothers wouldn't have done something like that. No. But they're also they're heavy drinkers.
But that's what makes it work. That's what makes their three relationships work, is the fact that he's so unstable. You would think they're crazy and they're the unstable ones, but they're logical and everything. He's worse.
He's worse.
And like you said, he's the one that brings out everything in them that makes them take it a step further and go after the Italian mafia.
Yeah, he's a liability too.
Yeah,
he is. And it's ironic that nudie bar was called the Sin Bin.
Yeah,
and you're just like, oh God, So Ron Jeremy buys it.
Ugh.
And then Rocco ends up killing a bunch of people at the bar, at that diner, at that restaurant. He just goes on a shooting spree.
It was just because, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were making
they
fun
set
of
him up. They're making fun of him. They set him up to get. They were shocked that he walked into that restaurant. They thought he would have been dead. They were shocked, and then once he saw that, and then he knew that guy, even the bartender was in it. And we're gonna be made now. Yeah, we're gonna get this. We were just fucking with you. We're just messing with you, and that's set him off right there.
Okay.
When it justified everything that the brothers were saying that these guys.
Yeah, because they tried to warn him, which almost turns into a fight. He's like, "Who the fuck sends you into a room with 9 guys with a 6-shooter?"
Yeah.
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
These guys. You've known these guys you work them for 20 years. They've never done anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
These people are not your friend. And then even after all that, they're still making fun of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he makes it out of there alive. All those people end up dead, but he's not getting any respect.
Yeah.
They're just laughing at him about the joke that they pulled. So
he's finally had enough.
Yeah, so he finally just kills all those people in the bar. He kills the bartender. He just goes on a shooting spree.
This was a scene that I didn't see the whole flashback coming, because you got the phone call. The brothers got the phone call from Rocco.
Oh
he was okay, and then I thought this happened.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really see the whole, going back to that scene and showing that. I just totally forgot about that.
Yeah. So, Willem Dafoe is now, becoming increasingly disheveled.
Yes.
He started out, he's very professional and, he's got now he's drinking He's drinking there at the crime scene. He's drinking in the hotel. He's pouring those guys drinks.
Sometimes you can see his clothes even change. You know, he was looking like a stud in the beginning, and now times you see his shirts are kind of ruffled and wrinkled and stuff like that. He's not taking
ties hanging off of him. You know, his hairs.
It's like, this has never happened to him, and that's what's causing him to lose it too, and that's what I love.
Oh, the scene where he's in the gay bar.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy he's like, "Are you sure you want another?" He's just poured me a fucking drink, Jesus Christ, you fairy fuck. And the whole bar just turns around, and they're like, fuck, he's just getting fucking liquored up in this fucking bar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, holy shit.
It's funny because I didn't get the fact that he was being liquored up because he was contemplating about good and evil, whether he was in this before he goes into the church and does his confession. That's when you realize what was his. Yeah, that's what
struggle.
The real problem is.
Yeah.
He actually agrees with what these people are doing.
What's going on? Yeah.
And
I didn't see that coming.
No, not at all. So I was wondering why he was getting so drunk. Was he so upset with the fact he couldn't catch these guys? And the fact I was like, these guys were right under his nose, and he can't see that these guys are continuing the same type of crimes. So, but then you saw the confession scene, and then like, oh, okay.
Because at that same time, he does piece it together.
Yeah,
right.
He pieces it together because what ends up happening is Rocco sends them on another mission. Which turns into a big fucking firefight in this cleaner's house. This guy who's like a cleaner, cleans up crime scenes.
Yep.
And that's where Billy Connolly comes into it. Il Duce, the Duke.
Il Duce. Oh, he's
I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, Jesus, that guy's fucking scary. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that Billy Connolly? I'm like, what the fuck, So they bring in Billy Connolly, who they managed to bribe a parole board or something, who's like this famous hitman. And
I didn't get. Maybe I missed it. How they got him out of prison?
They said it's going to cost some money.
Okay.
And so then all of a sudden his parole was approved.
The Don went to the old Don.
Yeah.
And made the deal with him about
it. Okay. Yeah, so for a certain amount of money, we'll use our influence to get this guy paroled. He's been in jail for 25 years, the heat's off of him, and so they're coming out of that latest murder spree, and Billy Connolly is waiting for them. And so there's just this shooting, this big shootout, and that's where Dafoe's like, there was a firefight, and like the opera's playing, and they're all shooting at each other, and Rocco gets his fucking finger shot off.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's how Willem Dafoe puts it together. He runs Rocco's fingerprint. And he's like, wait a minute, this can't be right. This guy's a moron. And that he remembers him from the original jail scene.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's like, I missed it.
I love that. I love that flashback. That was my.
Yeah, he still remembers him.
He still remembers him. The whole flashback with the whole cleaner scene, the way that you could see Willem Dafoe just pointing, and while the guns, it was like he was sitting there next to him. I like the fact that Troy Duffy changes these narrations every single time. There's something unique and something different about them. And so keeps the audience interested, keeps you interested, and makes you more alert and aware of what's going on.
And one thing is another thing I really liked is just how sometimes Dafoe looks like he's going to give up, and then finally something clicks. Like he's about ready to give up there at the cleaner's house, he's able to find the finger. Or back at the Peep Show, he's wondering how these look like excellent kills, except for there's also some random bullet holes and stuff like that. And he's wondering, and then he just suddenly it clicks. He puts one arm pointing the opposite, the two arms together, and then he's like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? He can tell that these are not professionals. You know what I mean?
It's a fucking mess. Just recreation of the scenes. He puts it together, and again, that's where he's in the bar getting liquored up because he realizes that he agrees with these guys.
Yeah.
You know, he talks about it. He said it's an issue of ethics. You know, I believe what these men are doing is correct. He goes into church and passes out in the confession.
Yeah.
And Rocco's so fucking unstable, he wants to shoot the priest.
That's right.
The priest's head, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have to pull the gun on fucking Rocco.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it just turns into a fucking mess. And, you know, essentially what Willem Dafoe believes is that, you know, they should be allowed to continue to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because what these people are doing is outside the law, but nobody else will do it.
Right. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, the law doesn't, they don't have laws for these kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what he's trying to say is the law is dumb. Look, the Boston police, and look at who he has playing the Boston police. He's portraying the Boston police as some dumb, stupid assholes who doesn't know, can't do shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. So they get a tip about going to Don Iacovetti. I think it's Don Iacovetti or something like that, where they end up getting captured.
Right.
And Rocco gets killed. I was surprised by that the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I thought he would have made it till the end. I did.
Yeah, I thought Rocco was going to make it. Rocco does not make it. It's a rough movie. I mean, that one scene, just to backtrack a little bit, where they have to cauterize all those wounds with the fucking hot iron.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
You feel that.
Yeah, there's some grit in there. Where Rocco's got that nub of a finger and they have to put it right there on the foot. You're like,
I felt that.
Man.
You hear the sizzle?
Yeah, and they have to hold him down, and they have to hold each other down.
And all three of them have to get cauterized, I think, right?
Yep, all three of them, yep.
Yeah. Man, the 90s were just a magical time for movies, and, you know, everything so...
I just love how we're talking about three guys having to have their wounds cauterized, and Mike's over here like, the 90s were a magical time, you know?
Because you had writers that weren't afraid to take risks.
Exactly, you're right.
It wasn't safe. You know, it wasn't.
Well, you could take risks back then. You could do that. There was no major platform to complain, to go ahead and say. Now, if you take risks, it's all over multimedia and so in the social network, and everyone's raising hell about it. You know, and you have to be. People are more sensitive these days.
There's there's substantive feedback going, pushback going on nowadays, though. And I just saw that. Taika Waititi, the director for the past two Thor movies, isn't going to be returning for the next movie because the movie had questionable ticket sales.
Okay.
So people, by refusing them, like there's a crowd of people are like, I'm not spending my money on this. And that matters. So at the end of the day, these companies are about making money. You see what's going on with HBO.
Yep.
You know, they're just cutting, slashing fucking movies and series like left and right. You know, it's just Warner Brothers is just cutting like fucking, you know, like samurais. You know, they're just fucking slashing through everything. But back then, man, I mean, you could just write anything and you could get decent actors to fucking act it out. And fuck, man. I mean, when's the last time you had a movie like Heat?
Oh
man.
Can't even think of it.
Well, all these movies like Heat are on Netflix. These great indie type great movies are all on Netflix or the Prime or stuff like that.
The closest thing I've seen was that movie Hell or High Water with Chris Pine and Ben Foster and Jeff Bridges. That was the closest thing, and so it's easily 20 years. But okay, anyway, Rocco, Rocco fucking gets it. And then Willem Dafoe takes the extremes,
the ugliest woman.
The extreme step of coming to the rescue in the form of a fucking escort, a female escort.
Drag queen escort. Maybe I don't know if she's.
No, I don't think that because Joey Bevo sent me over for entertainment. You know,
the thing is, you know Dafoe's character. He already had that in his closet. He was just waiting for an excuse to use it.
Yeah.
And what I liked about this is you knew right away it was Dafoe. You know,
course.
you knew. But what I liked is they didn't try to hide his face the entire time. You only saw the wig like on the outside before, he's allowed in. But once he's inside the house, you look at him, you can tell that's Willem Dafoe in a fucking red
He
wig.
had the big sunglasses.
Right, but but still, when he takes the sunglasses off, is it Troy Duffy, the director? He didn't try to hide the fact that it was Willem Dafoe. There was no big reveal right away. You know what I mean? Yeah. They kept on him dressed like this.
Right. And he believed it. And I don't know. Being out in LA, the monster guy was totally into him.
Yeah,
totally into Willem Dafoe. Yeah. And I'm like,
he's just like, oh, that guy always sends over the best fucking box. You're just like,
hey, everybody's got a kink. Some people like redheads, some people like butts and legs.
That's what they
some
say,
people like Willem Dafoe looking chicks. You know what I mean?
It. What's it? Every man has a thing, they say. Yep. Every man has a thing. So I guess Willem Dafoe found the right fucking guy. That was his thing. But Willem Dafoe starts killing people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even he realizes, too far.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying to keep. Well, he discovers that they're about to get slaughtered. Mm-hmm. So Willem Dafoe gets his dress to come in to really protect these guys.
He saves them. Yeah, he comes to the rescue. Yeah, he's the rescue mission, which fucking succeeds.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden,
you see he
gets knocked out by El Duce.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Willem Dafoe gets taken out by El Duce. And you find out that El Duce is the father of the two boys.
I was shocked about. I was totally shocked and didn't expect El Duce.
Yeah, neither did I.
Father. I didn't see that coming.
In jail for 25 years.
My first time seeing this, I don't know if I like that. You know what I mean? Maybe because we just saw him in a firefight with them, and if he was so good at what he does, why is he shooting at his sons? Type of thing. Maybe a second viewing. I didn't hate it, but it's just one of those
he didn't know until he heard the prayer.
Oh, okay.
The prayer is a special family prayer.
Okay.
So he wouldn't have known that they were his sons until he heard them reciting it when they were praying over Raqqa.
And it's true. When he locked up, there must have been in like 8, 9 or something, 3 or something like that when he got locked up.
Yeah. So they realize, that they're family.
Okay.
And then it comes back to 3 months later, and Don Yacoveda is on trial. And,
scene.
It's like a scene out of The Untouchables at the end where, Al Capone, he just doesn't care.
Right.
He's just smug and he's contemptuous of the court and, he doesn't give a fuck. And, the newspaper reporters are just, they're smug about the whole thing. And, everybody's in on the joke.
Right.
That this guy's going to walk. And his mother's up there. Oh, I was having dinner with my mother, and the horrible Italian accent, because, it's just Troy Duffy. And then they just burst in there and just fucking smoke him.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great.
Which is just fucking great. And that's how it ends.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it ends with this ending credits of opinions from citizenry.
I loved it.
As to whether or not they're doing the right thing or, not.
And what I loved about this whole end credits sequence is not everyone agreed.
Yeah.
Some people were all for this. Some people were totally against it. You had friends arguing. Yeah. And then you had that group of people says, I have no comment. I don't want to comment, Yeah. So that was really smart. And like I said, if it was just everyone agreeing, what they're doing is great. We need to do this and blah, blah, blah. I think that would have been a little too cheesy for this type of film. But the fact that it was more realistic, in my opinion, when you had those people arguing with each other. You had a couple friends arguing with each other. I can't believe you think this and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just looking at a text message or something. But that was a great fucking ending.
Mm-hmm.
Because something like that would be controversial.
Yep.
Whether is it the right thing to take the law into your own hands to do bad things to awful people?
Yep.
depends. It's a Rorschach test. You see what you see, and it's going to be different for everyone.
Yep.
But I mean, it's what. Actually, this movie's almost 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
It goes by fast. It doesn't seem like 2 hours. There's no slow down in this whole movie. It's
110 minutes,
and it's great.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like one of those 90-minute films that we cover on the show sometime. Where we're like, it goes Pacing's by like really that, and I keep coming back to this. It's just a shame about Troy Duffy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we could have been getting much, the same or even better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a first script coming from him. So, I mean, this is somebody who clearly has talent.
Mm-hmm.
Natural talent, because he wasn't even thinking about writing. He saw a lady being shot in his building or being taken over. He decided, let me write something about this.
And like he literally did this. Yeah, he literally did this while he was on break at work.
Yeah.
Like he was on break at work and he would just write something. And then he would go on another break and write a little more. And then before you know, he had this whole fucking story.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, 23 years later, still talking about it. And unfortunately, it's a one-off.
Yeah, I knew of the sequel. I've heard nothing but good about this one. I've heard nothing but bad about the sequel. So, but I still want to see it eventually, just to see it because of me enjoying this one.
I'd like to. I don't. I've heard much of the same thing. So I do want to see it, and I don't.
Something shitty?
Nah, I don't feel that way about it. I mean, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know what I feel about it. But my gut reaction is not to tarnish because the guy's already down.
Right.
And I don't want to do that. Not so probably not. But this is a really good fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
And if you own a copy, good for you. If not, I think you should buy it because I think it's worth owning, watching, and you can get it at a reasonable price. It's currently streaming on Pluto TV, Tubi, and Amazon Prime. So if you want to watch it, it's on there. If you catch us in the replay, it's worth fucking checking out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's good fucking stuff.
Yeah, it is a good movie. Great movie.
Okay. Well, I mean, is there anything that we've missed that we wanted to discuss about this?
No, not really. Because, like I said, the main thing that I loved was just the way it was edited. Like we mentioned in the beginning, we had, the fight at the meatpacker plant, then we saw the outside of Boston, and then the fight again. Just the way he edits, and then the recreation of the crime scenes is one of my favorite. I guess you'd say gimmicks of the movie. If gimmicks is the proper word, but I thought that was just a great idea.
It's original story. I thought it was written in an original way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a damn good flick.
Yep.
All right. This is the part where we get to and we rate the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rod, I don't know if you've been here. No, you haven't been here since we started doing this. We go from 0 to 5 stars. Half stars are allowed, so you can be 0, being, I want my money back. I'm going to stick my head in the wood chipper. Or you can go half star, 1, 1.5, all the way up to 5. 5 being it's perfect. So let's start with Eric. Just go because we're going around.
Sure.
What would you rate the movie?
Honestly, I didn't, like I said, I didn't know what I was getting into, and man, this movie was so freaking good. I'm the only thing I'm going to knock it for is I just can't stand looking at Ron Jeremy, so I'm going to take off half a star for that. I'm going to give it 4.5 though, 4.5 stars. This was a fantastic movie. I loved it from beginning to end, but there's just something about that man I just don't want to look at. You know what I mean? Like, you got to take points off. Even though, like I said, scuzzbag for a scuzzbag, but it's damn near a 5-star movie for me. 4.5.
So I'm still batting 1,000. All right, that's good to know.
Yes, sir.
All right, Rod, what do you got for me? Give us a number. Take a second if you need to think about it.
No, I love this movie. I loved everything about it. I love the editing. I love the narration. acting wise, the characters all work together, all and it's enjoyable. For me, it's a good movie when I can start watching it and not realize how long I've been sitting there watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it went by quick, and it was almost a 2-hour movie. So I'm with Eric. I'm giving like a 4.5.
4.5. Okay, 4.5. All right, 4.5 sounds good. I'm going to go with 4. I give it a solid 4. I like that in 1999, this was a movie with no huge stars attached to it. So everybody's you had people who were, Dafoe. Okay, so Dafoe, you're right. Mm-hmm. But nobody's kind of the star of the movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like one person stands out, this, that, or the other. I mean, everybody's kind of on even ground.
Mm-hmm.
But Willem Dafoe does get top billing in the movie. Maybe that's something that he pushed himself, or he had his right as a contract. But I saw that starring.
Yes,
Willem
he does.
Dafoe,
yes, he does. If you look
so.
on the back here, it's he's the first one listed, and deservedly so.
Mm-hmm.
Deservedly so. Willem Dafoe's performance is 5-star.
Yes.
It's a damn good movie, and I like the fact that, and again, the thing that Eric doesn't like is something that I do like.
Okay.
That Duffy was willing to really get in the mud for authenticity for scumbags.
No, I get it. Yeah.
He really did bring. He brought Ron Jeremy in. I thought it was. Yeah. The only reason I wouldn't go higher is because once we start to get higher, I start to get into other types of platforms, and other people would have had to put on better performances, and mm-hmm. I didn't consider it to be that kind of movie.
Gotcha.
But 4 and a solid 4, and for me, that's I'm good with that. Okay. So we're all in the same ballpark, pretty much within a half a point of each other for this film. So that works. Yeah. All right. I guess this is as good a place as any to bring it to a close then.
All right.
My thanks to Eric from Hey Internet Eric here.
Of course,
and,
dude.
To Rod, the radical one, joining us out there in sunny California. Eric, do you have anything you want to plug?
Sure. We are officially coming back this year. I mentioned it last time I was here with Sin City. Me and Alex are back with our podcast. It'll be on my channel. Hey Internet Eric here. You see the name right there. We will be live streaming 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. Central. We will be discussing a movie that is the total opposite of this, both in plot and quality. We'll be talking Jason Takes Manhattan just because we figured why not start with some schlock. And but after almost a year hiatus, we're happy to be back.
There you go. All right, well then that's good to know. Good to know that you're back. Rod, do you want to anything going on?
I'm just doing my play right now. It's being really successful. If anybody out here in the West Coast want to go see a good play, come out to Topanga Canyon at Theater Britannicum and come see Trouble the Water, the play about Robert Smalls, who was the first African-American senator, and he came from the South. He stole a Confederate ship. He pretended to be a captain and took the ship and took all the weapons, and he helped really change his country. So it's been getting phenomenal reviews from everybody. And
all right, congratulations.
If you want to come check it out, come see it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. If at some point, Rod, if you get a stream or a link or somebody records the performance, let me know. I mean, I'd be happy to advertise it for you. Where people can see it, or I'd be happy to put it up somewhere, on YouTube or something like that, where people can access it. I'd be happy to do it for you. So let me know if I can help in any way.
Okay, thank you.
This show tomorrow will be back at its regular time. We're not doing a late show tomorrow. It will be 8 p.m. for the final movie of the Summer of Crime, as we close it out with Todd Phillips' Joker. And that's going to be a movie to deep dive into. We've got Eric. Mm-hmm. I think we've got Ryan. We might have John. And we've got Julia Morgan all the way in London. She's going to be joining us at doing a late thing like Marty does.
Yeah, she's going to be up late.
Yeah, she's a night owl. So she likes being up late. So this is going to work out perfectly. And it's as good a movie as you can pick to close out the crime dramas that we started with Dark Knight. We're ending with Joker. Yeah, it's all good with me. So my thanks to everybody here tonight.
Thank you.
We'll see you all tomorrow. And all the very best, everybody.
Cheers.